Good evening, people from Chakra Incognita and Kunal Kohli. Now we will formally commence the Men's Day series, which we had planned, which is related to some special offers that we have from Spirit Spiral Healing's Healing Hub for men. It's specifically tuned to the needs of men. So let's look into a little background of how this came to be. Now, Kunal and I have been discussing this, as it's a typical boy-girl discussion. Kunal as goes back to his school days, and even Kunal is still very young. And I also go back to the way maybe girls were treated right from a young age. And if you see the adult man, whatever issues he is facing with, let's not even talk about mental health. Let's start with something that precedes mental health, which is the state of your emotions. We are all emotional beings. And let me tell you that we are, whether you believe in this or not, it's something that is quite evident that we are spirit in our bodies. And the spirit has needs. The emotions convey to you the needs of the spirit. This is how we project those needs of the spirit. The needs of the spirit are not something that are, dealt with at the intellectual level. So let's not even take this to the level of mental where we can even be analytical about what's happening to us. But let's just keep this at the stage of emotion. Boys and girls, when they're young, they are treated differently. Do you agree? Does my audience agree? Does Kunal agree with this? What is your take on this?
Yes,
They are
they
treated
definitely
differently.
are.
So, can you give me an example of this?
Um,
When we are very young, typically it is women who are our teachers.
yeah,
You would have noticed this as well. And women
yeah,
typically are the products of the patriarchal system. And definitely in my day and age when we were raised, definitely they subscribed to that system. Because the women who taught us and schooled us and groomed us definitely stood up for those norms, if not values. They definitely, the approach to education. I mean, even look at the basic thing of, you're all together in school up to a certain stage, say primary school. Now, schools like mine have separated children from age 3, and I find that absolutely ridiculous. You have boys in one nursery and girls in another nursery. I mean, what is this? I say. It's not bathrooms we're talking about here. It's classrooms we're talking about, for God's sake. And the same women teachers, are teaching the boys, teaching the girls. So why this separation? We grew up together. We chose our friends chose us. It was a different scene.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, the boys are told, now you go. My mother also spoke to me about this, about her school days, that she was almost in eighth grade or something. There were boys in her school. And then from that stage, those boys suddenly pushed off to a boys' school. To do what? To turn into alpha males. So when you go to that boys' school, that's where you possibly learn that, okay, now it's time to man up. Now it's time to suppress your emotions. Now it's time to be a different being altogether. And you suddenly find all the women going missing from your life. They are there teaching the junior classes, but as you move into the senior classes, the men are teaching you, and the feminine element completely goes out of your classroom, your schoolroom, your surroundings, everything. It's men, men, men. And with girls, it's girls, girls, girls. At least the school, whether it's a girls school or a boys school, at a certain level there are staff. There are non-teaching staff who invariably end up being men. So to that extent, at least there is exposure to, okay, You know how to interact with men. But where then do you learn how to interact, how to cope, how to find your level, how to find the balance? Do you learn it? You don't have a chance to learn it, do you, when you're segregated? Okay, let's look again at schools where both the sexes are together in the classroom. They are there in the same classroom. But don't you notice that there's a difference in the way boys and girls are treated? Kunal, you went to a co ed school. What's your take on it? You come out with it. Let's hear what you have to say about it.
For many years, I noticed that though there was not, it wasn't segregated, there was still soft segregation
Come
um,
to that.
in co-ed.
Mm.
So, girls would have, we'd have games periods, and all the boys would be playing actual sports, and the
Oh,
girls would be just restricted to playing carom and chess
is
and
it true?
ludo.
Is it true, really?
It was it took a few years for this to kind of be this barrier to be broken. And then girls started playing. I mean, it was gradual, it wasn't immediate.
Ah,
Girls started playing kho, girls started playing basketball. So for a few years, basketball was the only sport that they were allowed to play. Then volleyball, then eventually football, cricket. Uh, but yeah, it was a gradual thing. I mean, how do I
okay.
know?
Okay, you were in
Yeah,
school, right? But now your successors, the siblings who have come after you are going to the same school, so you're getting the feedback from them, possibly.
I am, but I've also seen this change
You saw the
happening
change even in
gradually.
your
Yeah.
time, yes.
Yes.
The way
We
we saw
started
the
with,
change, from ballroom dancing to an orchestra to dancing to rock music. We
yeah.
saw that change in my time.
So we started with girls just being restricted to carom and
And
ludo,
can
and
you tell
because
me the year? Just tell me the year when you observed this.
this was probably in the early 2000s
But in the
uh,
early
time. Yeah.
2000s, girls in girls' schools were playing a lot of sports.
Oh yeah,
So that way, the segregation worked. It worked in some good ways. So why
in
on
some
earth
good
in a
ways.
mixed school couldn't they all play the same sport? This is a question that comes to my mind. Also, when the sport is not competitive at a serious level, I see no reason they cannot play together.
Yeah,
This is not the Olympics, right?
it's not, and we
It's
were.
not,
I mean,
I mean, okay, there's games period for fun, and there's then further to that, there are serious sports where which the school invests in for training kids. There are two levels here. So during recess, during your recreation hours, I think it's fair that you play together. And it's when you play together that you learn how to navigate. You also learn
mhm,
how to navigate each other's bodies in a good way.
yeah,
You learn a lot of things like how you touch, a good touch, bad touch. Lots of these things come to light when you do get a chance to mingle. And you in a school, you do mingle under supervision. It's not the way you send your kids out to the park to play and somebody gets predatory with them. It's not that. So the teachers who are supervising also have to be sensitized. They have to understand what's going on. They have to be able to read the body language of the kids to understand what's happening. And when they come to this age of 13, 14, puberty kicks in. Hormones run wild. There are a lot of things that are going to happen to the kids, and you had better be geared up to deal with it and not run away with it from it. You don't lock your kids up because you're not equipped to deal with it. That is not education. Parent may not be equipped to deal with it, but you're sending your kid to a good school in the hope that teachers are equipped to deal with this. What do you say to this? How would you feel
Yeah,
about
that's
it? Suppose it's your siblings or your kids. How would you feel about this? This kind of mixing at different levels. You do theater together, don't you? You don't segregate when you do that.
we
We
do.
did theater separately. Girls
Oh,
played the
really?
boys' roles in the girls' school. It was interesting because we did not have boys to study. We had to make up our own narrative of how boys behave, or depending on how the teachers taught us. So we are playing like a girl decides she's Macbeth or whatever, but she has to use a lot of imagination to project that character, right? The boys were not so bold. The boys would borrow girls for the girls' roles for their theater.
Borrow.
So this is where I say, if those boys actually were told that it's perfectly okay to get into girls' clothes and play girls, that would be another level of sensitizing for those boys. I
Yeah.
don't expect it in the 1970s where I'm rewinding in time, but in this day and age where we talk a lot of theoretical nonsense about see, one thing about this equality that we talk about, and here again coming to the topic of Women's Day, Men's Day, no? Women's Day was in order to ensure rights for women because women did not have the same even legal rights as men. And this is the reason why certain things had to evolve. But today, when you look at Men's Day, men have legal rights. Which tell me which rights men lack, except maybe the when you look at certain the softer aspects of it, you notice a woman will go to office wearing practically anything she wants. A woman will go to office wearing trousers. That's considered cool. So would you view a man going to work in a skirt in the same way? You would blacklist him. So you're putting him in a different position, right? You're actually
Yeah.
restricting what he can do. Something that's always amused me at events like the Oscars. The women will use as much fabric as possible to show to reveal as much of their bodies as possible. So you find semi-naked women walking the ramp with half their clothing on the ground, on the carpet. That's what women do. You will see men in a three-piece suit buttoned up to the neck. What's the idea? Objectifying the woman? Is that the idea? Come
Yeah.
to
And
India, come to India, woman covers up, man bares his chest and struts around on the road. It, no, nobody, of course, in westernized circles, you're going to give him a rap. Not otherwise. If you go into traditional society, like I've seen, traditional Brahmin society, which I've observed, the Brahmin male feels entitled to go about with everything exposed up to the tummy and will strut around.
hmm,
I went to a temple in Madurai, the Meenakshi temple, and the female security said, "Cover your arms." Imagine.
oh,
I walk into the temple and here's this man in this, he is a priest, an overfed priest in this minimalistic dhoti. I can't even describe. The further south you go, I think the minimalism is more with the way bear with me, friends. I'm not being casteist. I am being descriptive of a phenomenon I have observed, which is definitely derived from a kind of entitlement. There I see this loutish fellow, well fed, big stomach, totally exposed top to bottom. this, like I say, the minimalistic dhoti he is wearing, and he's roaming around over there, and he is, giving prasad to the females who are lining up over there, and 1 inch gap between. I mean, do you think I like this? And then I get told by the security, cover your arms. In this day and age, I'm wearing a kurta without sleeves. I mean, it's not that I'm showing anything unusual, but this is what we look at. So where do we come? I mean, I know there's a friend of mine who had commented on one of my videos saying that your video reminds me of a friend who described this kind of digression as tangent talks. So what we are doing is, when we discuss an important topic, invariably these tangent talks creep into it. But then it becomes important to go off at a tangent somehow to understand the full perspective of what the scenario is with respect to what are the things that bother men. This could also bother them, right? I mean, why are they viewed with so much rigidity with respect to dress code in a westernized office? Now you go to a typical, say a government office, a babu can wear his dhoti and kurta, which is pretty much as comfortable as a woman's sari, cotton sari. So if you notice, they are pretty much, much more on an equal footing when you come to think of it. Go to one of these, corporate offices, see the different scenario. You have not worked in one of those, so have you worked in one of
I
those
have,
corporate offices? You have,
yeah,
for a while,
but for a while,
and
yeah,
not and managed to break the dress code by going in your
I
t-shirt,
did.
by going in your
I went
t-shirt and your
my
open toed
shorts.
foot, yeah, open footwear, right? So I
I didn't
mean,
go
where
with,
are we get? Where
yeah.
do these false values come from? Where is this? Who defines this notion of what is proper, appropriate, smart for a man? I say be clean, finished. Be clean, don't be provocative because you've come to work. Get out of the office and do what you want. Throw off anything you want, do whatever you want. But then keep what you're doing within a certain range. What you're doing. Who defines that range? We'll come to another time, because Zoom is making big eyes at me. But at least today I've opened the topic, I've thrown it open. So, what is it that men are looking for in Men's Day? Definitely not rights at that fundamental level, because they get the edge when it comes to most rights. But there must be, maybe there are some rights where there's an unfair advantage to women. Men who are watching this, I can open up and tell me about this, because I would like to know. I'm sure there are situations where, like even in Me Too, when it turned against innocent men, anybody who had some revenge to take, some vendetta, some grudge against somebody, could have Me Too'd that person on the. You can't have a blanket premise that the woman is always right, no? I think that is terribly weighted against the man. What do you say? Are you with me, Kumar?
I'm someone, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm someone who's more inclined to believe the victim. It's
Yes,
more about, okay, let victim. I mean, in the Me Too movement, victims were
yes.
both men and women.
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm
But don't
more
you
inclined to
think that,
believe them.
don't you think you look for a genuine victim? A man could also be a genuine victim getting framed.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
sure.
so you need to study the situation without blindly believing a woman, who she may be blackmailing you and saying, he touched me. Just cashing in on the fact that you're believing the woman, and then someone goes and beats up an innocent man for it.
Yeah, that's
That's
vigilante
something. there
justice,
was a
right?
there
That's
was an
outside
actual
of,
case there was an actual case where it happened. I am not able to pinpoint the case.
Okay.
So these are things where I try to be fair. I think it's important to be fair. I know I'm a woman. I know I'm vulnerable. I know I have had bad men do bad things to me, attempt to do bad things to me. I'm one of the very fortunate ones who did not actually have bad things physically done to me, though at a different level, yes, men have been bad. But I've also seen where men have been abused and bullied by other men, by women, both. So I would say that one of the things that I would personally fight for on Men's Day is be fair by men, whatever you're doing. They deserve this in the very least. As a category, no man should have to be beaten for something he didn't do, or prosecuted or punished for something he didn't do. So we have to look much more deeply into this. I mean, this is my honest opinion. If you think about it, maybe this would also come to light for you. And I think we need to talk to men who have been victims of this. And I'm sure there must be men who would like to sign up for my sessions who want to speak about this unjudged. Very important. So one of the things that I am having on offer is that safe space for them to come and open up. What say? What is your take? Take the last 2 minutes before Zoom kicks us out.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
it's about Men's
this.
Day, I'll ask the man to wrap up. You do the
It's
wrapping
a
up.
privilege. Um,
Yes.
so I feel like we should definitely hear them out.
Mm,
There are, you know, there are cases where we really need to look at it objectively,
mm,
not taking any sides.
mm,
We have to, um, because these are complex human beings we're dealing with,
mm.
either regardless of
And
the gender,
operating in complex systems.
operating in complex systems.
Yes,
So
yes,
we
yes,
have
which I
to
asked you to
be,
look up.
yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
This total
But
map,
I do,
eco map of man, woman, the scenario, the expectations, the societal structure, which is constantly in a flux and which we are trying to change. I think these conversations are a lot more about, men washing the dishes, which I think men anyway do.
yeah, we're looking at it superficially, like,
Yes.
oh, men don't
Hmm.
get seats in the bus, men don't get seats in the train.
I have
This
had
is
women
why,
speak up saying that, about how the women went and took all the women's seats and all the men's seats also to bully the men, which again is not fair.
yeah, when it gets weaponized, then that's a
Hmm.
problem,
So
right?
your Me Too, yes, your Me Too should be something done in honesty. But as I see it, all these things get hijacked to be weaponized by some vested interest. This
Yeah,
invariably happens, which is why I come out of these movements and say, please, let's look at individuals. Let's hold a lot more space for individuals and their individual issues. The law may not do it, but let us, as healers, open that space up for something. And I find it interesting that you are speaking as a detached person, saying them when you speak about the men,
yeah, I
because
am
there's a part
somewhat
of it
detached.
which is them and there's a part of it which is us. So
Yeah,
I
which is
would,
us.
when you put yourself into the shoes of us, you will definitely feel that there are vulnerabilities here which people don't pay attention to. And I think on that note, I will wrap up this first session because it's turned out very well. I don't want any glitches. What do you say?
Yeah,
Enough
yeah,
for
let's
today.
wrap it up.
We'll come back again tomorrow and continue this where we take off on this, on the same theme and what really I have on offer with respect to
Yeah,
this. And then I'll put the offers out. And I hope that the men who are watching and who are reading what I write on this theme will trust me, because This is what we need. We do need to win the trust of men. Men feel untrusted. I feel sad about this. Men feel untrusted, and it's not fair.
Yeah.
Here's to the men who are watching it. Please share it with others. Bring others to watch this, and please let's work together on this, because we all need all of us. Okay. Good night from
Yeah.
me and from Kunal.